Do you sidestep away from having conversations about the colour of my skin?
Is it intimidating to acknowledge my blackness?
Do you see my achievements as excellence or black excellence?
Does it make you feel uncomfortable when I mention my blackness?
So let's not mention it.
We've known each other for over 10 years now. We're here to have a discussion because it's Black History Month and it's a great opportunity for conversation and action. But obviously we want to be able to celebrate excellence and black excellence all year round. It poses the question though, when do we want to say black and when do we not? We have so much to talk about, Layla. We know that you're a high achiever on and off the court. So let's start from the beginning. Little Layla, growing up, where did it all begin for you? Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
So I'm a South Londoner in terms of where I was born. So I was born at King's College in London, and I lived in London probably till I was about two and a half. And then I moved back to Birmingham, and that's where I went to school, and kind of all my childhood was in Brum.
So you went to school in Birmingham. I assume it was a multicultural city growing up. What was school life like for you?
I was a bit of a geek at school, which probably doesn't surprise you knowing me. But yeah, I loved school, made some great friends, had like a really diverse mixed group, and just, yeah, loved it.
Is that where your netball journey began?
Yeah, so it probably began around the time I was in year 7, year 8, and I had just started at my school and had the most amazing PE teacher, and she saw my long arms and my poor coordination, and she was just like, you could probably be a netballer, you could be something quite good. And so she got me into a club that was a really good club at the time, and just kind of rose through the ranks with that. And yeah, over a lot, she was amazing.
What was that journey like into the England setup and kind of moving through to the seniors?
Yeah, I loved it. So I did kind of under 17s and then quite quickly went into the under 21s team and played at kind of the European Championships and got to captain a couple of those teams as well. And I just loved it. It was weekend away with friends, wasn't it, at the time? And it was just really fun and really enjoyable. And then I think when I was about 18, 19, I had a knee injury, which I think made it all feel a lot more serious. And I think I learned the challenges of sport, and it really isn't just having fun with your friends. There's some tough times with that. Then probably about a year later got into the senior team, and I think I always felt like I was there but not really there, and you feel like you are a part of it but you probably don't back yourself in to really compete and be a senior player. And I think it's not until the past couple of years really in the team that I've thought, yeah, I actually might deserve to be here, and I want to give this a good shot and see what I can do.
You talk about, your commitment to stuff, and when you put your mind to something. I can remember in 2011, our tour to Jamaica.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, neither of us made the 12 to be in the squad, but we were in the stands, obviously waiting for the Roses to start their match against Jamaica. Now, obviously being in Jamaica, of course there was a power cut. Of course there was a power cut. So me and you sitting in the stand, you were studying for some exams that you had coming up. The lights went out and I'm sat next to you. You pull your phone out and you put the torch on and you carry on studying.
I don't know how you remember this. I mean,
how could I ever forget it? For
Yeah.
me, that was just such a moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, this lady is serious. You know, it was just, for me, that just defined excellence. And I think that, not to butt you up too much, but for me, that's something I'll never forget.
Thanks, Cam.
And yeah, absolutely kind of sets you apart from a lot of people, I think.
I don't remember that. And I think I had a few moments like that. Yeah, taking the moments where you can to study and the moments where you can to train has definitely been my journey. And sometimes it's been more challenging than others, but, it's worth it in the end.
You talk about journeys and people's journeys. We can't not talk about the build up to the World Cup, home World Cup in Liverpool, and then obviously the devastating outcome of your injury.
Yeah, when I say I loved that whole World Cup year, like I really did love it, and it was probably the happiest I've felt in netball maybe apart from when we won in 2011 at Mavericks, that was a close second. But I actually felt really good. Like, I physically felt really good, and I felt ready to compete and wanted to win a gold medal and back up what the guys had done the year before. And then, yeah, just in the second game, just felt my Achilles go and just knew straight away that I'd done it. Just, yeah, knew that my tournament was over then and there. And I still really enjoyed the World Cup, actually. I had such a good time crutching around. Tracy Neville got me a mobility scooter that I just drove around Liverpool with my leg elevated, just zooming around. It was a good experience despite it all.
Your coach, Tracy Neville, at the time says that the squad was absolutely devastated. There were tears and, you know, everybody felt that with you. I'm just going to read a quote from Tracy Neville. She said that Layla touches the heart of everyone in the group. She's one of the biggest personalities and influencers. I think if we hadn't shared that emotion, I would have been really worried within the group.
Yeah, well, she was actually amazing. And I remember I'd had a boot put on and went back to the room, and maybe about 40 minutes later, when the game had finished, I had a knock on my door, and it was her and Amanda Newton, actually. And they both gave me a massive hug, and they had tears in their eyes. And that was the first time that I got upset, actually, just seeing how upset she was. And then, yeah, we went down to the team room and everyone was in tears. And yeah, I told everyone to win me a gold medal, which, I mean, we didn't, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Forgive everyone. Yeah, it was really nice to get the support, I guess, and just know that people cared. Yeah, it's nice.
It's a really special thing, isn't it? I think that sport and team sports in particular just really bring people together in a way that, like, no other across the world.
Yeah,
so.
I agree. Yeah, you make the best of friends through sport, and it really unites you.
When you look across the Roses squad, you know, there's an array of cultures, and I think that that's really special. Would you agree that that's the right direction that we are in?
Yeah, I think so, and I don't think you're defined by one thing at all. Like, for so many of us, we're second generation or maybe even beyond that now. And like, I'm Black Caribbean, like, I'd tick that box, I am that box, and I'm really proud of that box. But I can still play for the England netball team. Like, I was born in this country and I have grown up in this country and I've gone through all the pathways and systems. And so I think this is Britain, isn't it? Like, you look around, it's multicultural. We've got lots of different ethnicities here who can still represent England, but still feel some relation to their past and their grandparents and their parents. And so I think it's great to see diversity and multiculturalism across the English netball team. And yeah, I enjoy it, and I'm glad that we have that.
So you talk about school being a diverse environment, the city that you grew up in was multicultural. You then went on to Oxford University and UCL. What was your university experience like?
Yeah, it was interesting, actually, because when I was in year 13 and I was deciding where to go, I actually initially really didn't want to go to Oxford. And I think because I thought it just wasn't a place for me, really. And then in the end, just kind of thought, you know, I've got the opportunity to go here. I'm going to go and see what it's about, really. But it was really different. It was strange for me to become other, which is what I think I felt a little bit when I was there. And I think in a way that made me learn kind of a lot of new and different things that I don't think I'd learned before. But I think I was always aware of things like going to a hairdresser or not being able to get my hair stuff, and the really little things in society, but that actually make you feel, a little bit other, that you need to travel to London to go and get your hair done, or you need to go to Birmingham to get your hair products. It makes you feel that perhaps it's not designed for you. But it was a really good experience, and, you know, a great education, and set me up really well for my career, and made some good friends and met people I'd never crossed paths with in life, which I think is also really important as well. It broadened my outlook. But yeah, it's a space that I think has a little bit of work to do with, I guess, making Black children feel that they want to necessarily go there.
So you were named third in a list of top 10 of black academics at universities across the UK. You were made aware of that at the time. What did that mean to you?
Yeah, it was amazing actually. And I remember going to the ceremony and I remember sitting in the room and kind of hearing the stories of the other students, and there were some great like politicians there and other kind of top black people, and I just loved it. Like, it was great to be sat in a room of such high achieving black people, and it was really nice being honoured. Like, yeah, great. But for me, it was more about meeting the people there and just hearing their journeys and stories and how inspirational they were.
Top 3 in the whole country of black academics, like, that's incredible. But we're still in a position where we have to disclaim, or we have to say that it's a black academic. So often the standard is by white standards. You know, that's the standard that people go off of. You wouldn't often hear about a white lawyer in the newspaper or across the news, but you would if it was a black lawyer, because that's, you know, that's the standard that's been set. So do we want to get to a time where we don't have to say that you're a black doctor?
Yeah, I agree. I think you're right. I think there's probably things that are more accepted, so you probably don't see black 100-metre sprinter or black basketballer in the NBA. But things such as academia, or when things are painted in a more negative light, I think that's when you often see that race gets brought into it. In an ideal world, that wouldn't be the case, and excellence would just be celebrated across the board. But I think that's not necessarily been the case. And I think, especially for our like parents' generation and still for our generation, I think people have had to find spaces and create these things. It's a bit like we're talking about Black History Month. Like, these things have to be created so that these things are celebrated. It's hard because I don't know when that will ever be the case, that things are just taught or celebrated as the norm. So until then, I think we need to keep going with these things.
Let's revisit the journey. That this is how we know each other. You've had stints at Loughborough Lightning, obviously at Mavericks, which is where we played together for many years, which was an amazing experience. Team Bath, obviously, but then you also played out in the Suncorp for Thunderbirds in Australia. What was that like as an experience as a British athlete, as a black athlete? What was that like for you?
Yeah, I think as a black athlete, I guess it's a bit different for me. I think the league here is, I mean, we've got lots of black netballers, and I think I knew it was a bit different at Suncorp, where like myself and Sham got mixed up constantly, and I remember actually going to something and somebody calling me Shamira the whole time, and thinking I was Jamaican, and it was all a bit weird, and I didn't correct them, and I really should have corrected them, but I was just almost like embarrassed by it, because I didn't really know how to say like that's not me.
It's the wrong person.
Yeah, you've got the wrong
black person.
Thunderbird.
Yeah.
So we're not the same person, and it seems weird that you think we are, and we'd go to things and people would go, "Oh, you two twins." Be like, no, we're really not. We don't actually look alike. Like, we're from different places and different families, and so I think kind of a lot of those experiences, and I had a few experiences in shops and things that just made me feel a little bit uncomfortable, and made me feel really different to how I feel at home. And not saying that we're anywhere near perfect here in England, because I know we're not, but things that I probably didn't experience being in England.
You know, because in England we do have diversity, absolutely, at, you know, playing level. We've talked about, you know, we want at board level, CEO level, managerial level, for those positions to be a lot more diverse and supported. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think there's a few things to that. So I think it's super important to have diversity at those higher levels, and getting the right people to fill those roles. Like, I think sometimes when you hear diversity, people say, "Oh, we'll get that person."
Yeah.
The face might fit the bill, but it might not always be the right person for the job. And I don't think by showing kind of some token gesture of putting someone in, that's necessarily always the right thing to do either. And I think that it needs to be collaborative. It needs to listen to everyone's views and ideas. You know, my experience as a black person in netball might be completely different to Ebony Asoro Brown's or Jodie Gibson's or someone. We've all had really different experiences, and so I think it's about involving as many people as you can, seeing what kind of shared experiences there are and what things need to be developed and improved, but then sitting around a table with lots of people, not just the people that you're talking about the discrimination to, and everybody collaboratively thinking of how to counter these things and how to make sustainable change, like not just something that is here and hot for a minute and then doesn't actually have any lasting impact.
So just getting into your career path as a wonderful NHS doctor, which is, in itself, hats off for your time in Birmingham as a doctor, your time in Bath as a doctor, and potentially 2 different experiences, right?
Yeah, in terms of like the workforce that I worked with, I mean, I think where you work often reflects the city that you're in, and as we said, Birmingham is like super multicultural. I think I've been lucky that I've never felt that I've faced any racism in my career. I may have done, because you don't know, and certain microaggressions, but I've never noticed anything from the kind of medical team. I've had things said by patients and things, but nothing from the medical team. But I think it's one of those things, and I think about this a lot for like kids coming through, just kind of what you see is what you think you can be. I think having a diverse workforce is great for everything, like for patient care, and we look after a multicultural population, having people that can speak different languages and offer different things and culturally offer things as well, like understand where people come from or their belief systems is really helpful in healthcare.
Nowadays, you're in the workforce. I would imagine that you are just Layla the doctor. That's just who you are. Have there been any instances where you've been described as the black doctor?
No, I can't think of any, but it is something that I've seen written, and I guess it goes back to kind of the conversation we've been having about how if black is needed. There's people I follow on Instagram, and there's lists of kind of famous black doctors and things, and for me seeing those lists is actually quite inspirational because I don't see that a huge amount in the workforce. But I think if there wasn't a need for that, I think if I did see people and there was the representation, then I guess those lists and those tags aren't as needed. So it's not anything I've ever been described as, but yeah, it has its purposes sometimes, but it would be really great to not have to use it.
Growing up, or just through your career, what role models have you had? And white, black or other, and was it important to you if they did have a black label as well?
Yeah, I think I've had loads of role models like within my career and within medicine. I've not encountered lots of senior black doctors, to be honest, and so there was one I had in medical school who was amazing, and she lectured us, and I do remember at the time she might have even been the first female lecturer that I'd had that was black, and I do remember looking at her and just being like, she is a boss, and I want to be exactly like her when I'm older, when I'm big. I think role models can come in lots of different forms. I think it can be people's like actions and what they do, but I do think there is something about seeing yourself somewhere in a space that makes it feel like it's accessible to you and makes it feel welcoming.
The idea that we could live in a colourblind world isn't an ideal. We don't want that. We want to celebrate people's cultures, people's differences. It's important to celebrate those. But I guess what's important is that we don't always use those things to define us. Would you say that that's important?
Yeah, I think I agree. I don't see colour is, to me, crazy. Like we should see and celebrate it, and like not just black culture, but there's so much diversity in culture in the UK, in the world, that we should celebrate and learn from and share experiences from. And so in a way, it's something that you're really proud of. Like, I'm really proud to be a black doctor, and I hope that does inspire other black kids to want to go on to be a black doctor. But I agree, you don't want that to be your sole and your only definition. And yeah, I think I was listening to a podcast of Alice Deering, the swimmer at the Olympics, and, you know, she's first, I think, black swimmer to represent GB, and that is amazing. Well, it's not, it's terrible, actually, that it's taken that long for that to happen. But, you know, for her to be that person is great. And she was saying she represents that, and she wears that, and she's proud to represent being black in and amongst that. But she also wants the narrative to be about gold medals she's won and about, you know, competitions that she's been at. And I think that's really important, that the other things are celebrated alongside that. You know, it's not just, that's not her sole thing. She's also an Olympic amazing swimmer, and that also should be celebrated.
So when do we use the word black, and when do we not use the word black? The $1 million question.
Yeah, that's a really hard one. I don't know. I think it's often used, and certainly in like communities I've been a part of, is a celebration of the excellence that isn't necessarily picked up in other spaces. And so, you know, we go back to talking about Black History Month. Ideally, I mean, every month for us is Black History Month, isn't it? Like, you talk to your grandparents, you learn about things in and amongst your culture. But whilst it's not something that's widely taught and widely celebrated, it's used to give it a space. And I think that's how it's used at the moment, and that's why it's used at the moment. And I guess that's when it's being used, to give people a space that might not necessarily always have it. I guess there's the negative side where, you know, you see that footballers are named as black footballers when there's something to say that's negative.
You know, when those amazing 3 footballers, you know, missed those 3 penalties, and all of a sudden they were black footballers.
Yeah.
Whereas if they'd scored, they would have been English football players.
English heroes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're still in a time and a place where there's room for improvement. I think that the conversation has to continue. I think that people need to be comfortable with the word black being used. You know, hopefully we'll get to a stage where you're not defined by the colour of your skin. You're defined by your achievements. And
an appreciation. Everybody is different within that space. Not every black person is the same as every South Asian person isn't the same, and every white person isn't the same. And I think, like you say, it's your colour, your race isn't your definition. And yeah, that would be a good place to get to.
It can be contradictory because on one hand we're saying we want to celebrate and highlight that it's a black achievement, black excellence, but at the same hand it's just excellence and it's just achievement. Look, we're not going to solve that in one day. We're not going to solve that right here, right now. What we do know is that you are the epitome of excellence. You know, we know that you're an achiever. So what's next for Layla?
We've got lots of England netball training camps in the run-up to Commonwealth Games. I really want to be at the Commonwealth Games. I really want to be selected. So just putting in some hard training miles and trying to get there really is my big aim for the year.
What would it mean to you to be at a home Commonwealth Games, not just home on UK soil, but home as in Birmingham, where you, Layla Guscoth, grew up? What did that mean to you?
Yeah, I think it would be incredible. You know, the athletic stadium is next to the gym I used to train at, and I've ran around that track lots of times doing horrible sessions, and I've ran around where the netball's going to be played, and so much of the city like I know and I have a connection to. And yeah, I'm excited for Birmingham that it gets to host a major championship. I think it's going to be so good for the city. But there is something really special about the thought of being able to play there and being able to represent in my hometown really. And like my biggest hope for those Commonwealth Games really is that it will like invest in the local community and that it will be like a great visual for kids in the community to just see all of this sport and see what can be achieved, and hopefully see people that look like them across all the nations there. It's a great opportunity to showcase all of that to Birmingham.
That's probably why you were chosen to be a torchbearer
Oh.
just the other day,
Yeah.
because I mean, you know, what an amazing message to give, what amazing torch to have to carry for so many reasons. It's not just about bringing it home to Birmingham, it's about being a role model for the next generation. Does that mean a lot to you?
Yeah, a huge amount to me. And I think, you know, we spoke about role models already, and although I spoke about my kind of doctor role models, I've had role models like the whole time in my family, and so for kids to see people who they can, relate to and feel like they're connected to, I think that's huge. And so, if I was a role model, it'd be nice. I'd like to be one.
What would young Layla think of the Layla that you are now? Would she be proud of her?
Yeah, I don't know what young Layla would think. Young Layla was quite stubborn, as you probably can remember. So I think she'd be proud of the journey that I've had. It's not been a smooth sailing one, and I think she'd be proud of some of the resilience and the hard work that I've put in, I think.